Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar brought to you by Guardian Inspection Payments. My name is Ryan Ward. I coordinate all things marketing for Guardian, and it is my pleasure to be here today as your host. In today's presentation, we're going to uncover everything you need to know about FlexFund, the payment feature powered by Guardian, the problem it solves for home buyers, how it works for you and your clients, and most importantly, how it helps you, the home inspector, get more bookings and generate more revenue per inspection. Before we get started, just a few housekeeping notes. Today's webinar will be recorded and sent out via email to all registrants within a few business days. We will leave time for Q&A at the end of our 30 minutes together. So as questions come up, please just drop them into the chat window. And today we're actually going to try and address your questions in real time. So do be sure to input your questions as they pop into your head. If we're not able to get to your question before time is up today, please know that someone will follow up with you directly afterwards. All right, you've likely had a chance to peek at our truncated agenda on the right. So let me start by introducing today's speaker. I'm going to go out on a limb and guess that most of you here today are familiar with these guys. But just in case, I'd like to introduce the founders of Guardian Inspection Payments, two of the nicest people I've had the pleasure to work with, Ben Tolman and Aaron Fuhriman. Ben is unfortunately unable to join us today, but I think we'll do just fine with Aaron. I think I've said enough. And with that, Aaron, I'll hand it over to you.
Thanks, appreciate it, Ryan. And thanks, guys, for jumping on here. I know everybody's busy, and hopefully we can make this super informative and help your guys' business out. As Ryan mentioned, feel free anytime during the presentation, feel free to put something in the chat. If you've got a question, we're happy to pause and answer your questions. And then at the end, we'll definitely leave 5 or 10 minutes for Q&A. So I guess before we get into it, just to give you a little bit of background. So Ben and I have started this company in 2000 doing credit card processing. And just a couple years into it, we kind of got into the home inspection industry. So for about 20 years now, we've focused 100% on home inspectors and the home inspection industry. We've got thousands, I think upwards of 7,000 home inspectors that are actively using our products right now. And over the 20 years of working with inspectors, it kept coming up where inspectors would come to us saying, hey, do you have a solution for when my customers or my agents want to pay for the home inspection at close? And our answer was always no. Like, there's just no viable way to solve that problem. So this is something that's been going on for a long time. We know you guys have, get asked that periodically from agents or customers. And even we did a survey, I think 4 years ago with home inspectors before we started this, just to get an idea of how you guys do pay at close. And we found that the majority of home inspectors do offer it at one point in time. Most of them quit doing it after a couple transactions because it was such a headache. You don't get paid up front. You have to deal with sending an invoice to the title company. If the deal falls through, you have to go collect on it. And it was just such a nightmare to deal with that most inspectors just would tell agents, no, I won't do it. And inspectors were willing to lose jobs and agents so they didn't have to deal with the pain of paying at close. So, we've been kind of stewing over that for a decade. And finally, we said, let's do something about it. And so we came up with this product called FlexFund, and just want to share a little bit about how it works and some of the benefits. So first of all, and I think the most important part of and what differentiates our product from you doing this on your own is you get paid up front. So when your customer goes to pay for their home inspection and they choose FlexFund as a payment option, they're signing an agreement, they're putting in a backup form of payment, they're giving us their closing information, and then they sign it, right? And as soon as that's signed and you do the home inspection, it's marked as paid in ISN and you get paid. You're done. So that money shows up. If you do an inspection on Monday, you'll have the money in your bank account by Wednesday. And then after that, you don't have to worry about anything. We will invoice the title company. If the deal falls through, we're the ones that have to go collect from a customer who had a home inspection on a home that they're not buying. We deal with the title company if they don't add it to the closing document. Greg, you had a question in there that is it required for on ISN? The answer right now is yes. So we've only got this in ISN currently, but we are actively building an API that will be able to tie into other inspection softwares. So Home Inspector Pro, PalmTech are both next on the list, and then Horizon is going to be doing it, and then we're also going to be building a standalone terminal, standalone tool where you could do this FlexFund on regardless of what software you use. The other cool thing about FlexFund, and one of the pain points that you guys solve for, that we solve for, Kim, you had a question about Spectora. Yeah, we're gonna have an API that will be able to plug into any software. So clearly, it's going to be, if that software wants to offer it, we will let them plug this into their software. So we're going to make it available to the industry, and then it's going to be up to the industry on who wants to actually plug it into their software. So as I mentioned, one of the great things about this is price shoppers. You guys have all had that phone call where it's very evident right up front that the person calling you is just looking for the cheapest home inspector in their area. And we all know how they sound and how that call feels like. The first question they ask is, how much do you cost? They're not asking about what you inspect or how you run your business or any of that. It's just, what is your price? This is awesome. You can be the only guy that when they make that call that says, hey, it doesn't cost you anything today, you can pay for this at closing, which is a great way to get them to kind of take the focus off of how much you cost and listen to what you have to offer. So we've seen a lot of success with price shoppers. Also a great way to get market share. Not every agent is interested in having their customers pay at closing on every transaction, but every agent at one point in time has a customer who wants to pay at close. And every agent typically knows the one or two inspectors in their area that will offer or not complain about the customer paying at closing. And so if you don't do it, which I totally understand why you don't do it right now on your own, your agents know who does it in town. And so when they get that customer who wants to pay at close, they'll go to that inspector. Now you have the ability to tell agents, hey, I offer pay at close on every transaction. That's just a benefit you get when you use my inspection company. A great way to gain market share. We actually have a link out there that you can go to and that we give to agents where they can go in and type in a zip code or an area with a radius and say, who in my area offers FlexFund? And we'll direct them to every inspector in their area that offers this, and inspectors are getting agents because of that. It's also a great way for you to go to that website and you can see what competitors in your area are offering FlexFund and know that they're gaining market share in that area. They're actively going after your agents, which is what we would encourage you to do. As soon as you sign up for FlexFund, getting emails out to your agents, your buyer's agents, your seller's agents, letting them know that you offer this so that they're not going to somebody else when they have a customer who wants to pay at close. And this is not a new concept. You guys have probably seen over the last 5 years, like it has blown up. The buy now, pay later concept is everywhere. Whether you're buying groceries, shopping at Amazon or Apple, you name it, almost every website out there now offers the ability to pay at close. And why are they doing that? Why deal with the headache of letting people pay at close? And it's very simple. It's because it makes them more money than it costs them. If it didn't, they wouldn't be doing it. So what we've found out, and there's a lot of studies out there. There's been MIT's done multiple studies. Some of you guys might know Dave Ramsey, who has done multiple studies about how much more people pay when they pay with a credit card versus paying with cash or check. So people spend more just on a credit card because they can pay later, right? So it's statistically just been proven over and over again. When you tell your customers they can get what they want today and not pay for it till later, that customers will pay a lot more. Some of the studies that I've seen, that shows anywhere from 17 to 120% more that customers will pay for the exact same product if they can pay for it later. So for home inspectors, what does that mean exactly? I'm gonna kind of go into some of those numbers. When you offer FlexFund to your customers and you let them know that they can pay for this later at closing, here's the numbers that we've seen. And just so you know, we've got a lot of data on this now. This has been running for about 2 years. We've ran over 20,000 home inspections through our FlexFund tool. So we have really good data. And what we've seen is that on average, inspectors make 30% more when the customer pays at closing versus when they pay up front with cash, check, or credit card. Some of them have seen as high as 127% more. They're more than doubling their average inspection fees when customers pay at close. And that's a $154 average increase. And like I said, some of them are getting 127% more, which is as high as $600. That's huge. And remember that when they pay with FlexFund, you're not paying a credit card fee. So on average, you guys are probably paying around $12 to $15 per inspection for credit card processing. When they pay at close, that fee goes away. And this is really what I want to focus on, though, is how are inspectors making that much more when a customer pays at close? And it's because it's easier to sell ancillary services when the customer doesn't have to pay now. So let me kind of explain what I mean by that. First, I guess before I do that, let me just go into the fees, because that's usually what you guys want to know as well. How much is this going to cost? Well, it's $50 per transaction. So $50 per transaction. What a lot of times when I mention that, hey, it's $50 for FlexFund, immediately in your head you're going to, well, that's $50 more per inspection. I don't want to pay that. It's not $50 more per inspection. It's $50 when your customer chooses to pay at close. Now, statistically, and again, we ran over 20,000 transactions through our system. Only about 5% of your customers are going to choose to pay at close. So that's only 1 out of 20. And the cool thing about that is, so bear with me for a second. Let's assume I'm the home inspector and you're the customer, right? And you guys all have done these calls thousands of times, right? So when I'm calling up and I'm the customer, I'm coming to you to do the home inspection, and in my head, I'm thinking this is probably going to cost me a couple $100, right? That's kind of what customers assume. So a couple $100 is what I'm thinking. So I go to you and say, hey, Mr. Inspector, I need my home inspection. How much is it? You say, well, it's $450 for the home inspection, but I'd recommend that you do a sewer scope as well, and that's $250. We do radon testing, which you definitely want to do, which is $180. We do mold testing, which is another $200. We do air quality, which is $500. Like, you go through these fees, and in your customer's mind, it's like, holy crap, right? I thought it was going to be a couple $100. I'm over $1,000 with all these things. And what happens what does the client do when those numbers get bigger and bigger and bigger? They kind of shut down, right? They're like, whoa, let's just stick with a home inspection. And now you're trying to sell the sewer scope. Well, radon, it's super important. It's a poisonous gas. It's the #1 killer, whatever. And you're trying to convince them to add these because they're freaked out about how much this is going to cost. But imagine now that I'm the customer and you just went through those fees, and as soon as you were done, you said, home inspections $450 and sewer scopes $250 and radon's $180. But hey, don't worry about it. You don't have to pay for any of this now. You can pay for it all at closing. That immediately takes the pressure off of your customer and allows them to think a little more clearly, and they're not freaked out as much about the price. And now they can listen to you a little bit better, and it just makes it that much easier to upsell your services. And again, we've seen that over and over again, and the data has proved that out. Customers are spending $154 more per inspection when they pay at close versus paying with cash, check, or credit card, because it's that much easier for you to upsell your services. So a little bit of math here. Like I mentioned, only 1 out of 20 of your customers are going to choose FlexFund. Now that's just an average, right? There's some that are getting less than that. They're getting 1 out of 30, 1 out of 40 that are doing it because of the way they offer it. We have some that are getting 30% adoption, right? 1 out of 3 people are choosing FlexFund because they're really pushing it, because they've figured out that if I really push FlexFund and I convince these customers that they want to pay at close, that they will spend more money on that. So now 30% of their inspections, they're making that $154 extra instead of just 5% of the inspections. But on average, if you just work it the normal way, only 1 out of 20 people are going to do it. And what's awesome about that is, so on all 20 of those inspections, you use FlexFund, you use the ability to pay at close to upsell your clients your ancillary services, right? So on every one of them, you're upselling and you're telling them they don't have to pay now, they can pay at close, but only 1 out of those 20 are actually going to do it, which means you only paid $50 one time out of 20 inspections. But what about those other 19 inspections that you booked? All of them heard the same pitch. All of them also got to relax when it came to talking about price. And what we've seen is not only does the transactions where the customer uses FlexFund increase, but the other 19 also will increase, right? Because you'll say, hey, yeah, but you don't have to pay any of it today. You can pay for it all at closing. Now they book the sewer scope, and then they get the email 2 hours later saying, click here to pay, and they see 3 payment options, right? They see credit card, ACH, and FlexFund. most of them still just click on credit card and pay with credit card, or ACH and pay with ACH. So you got the benefit of using FlexFund to upsell your client without having to actually pay the $50 fee. And that happens all the time. Now, sure, there's going to be some where when it's all said and done, all they did was a standard residential inspection and they did FlexFund and it cost you $50 extra on that transaction, right? That's going to happen. But the law of averages means that a lot of inspections that don't do FlexFund, you're going to get more sales on it. And the ones who do FlexFund, on average, you're going to make more money on it. So just a great way to help increase your ancillary service sales, increase market share, and increase your non-FlexFund inspections. We call it ARPI, average revenue per inspection. So when it's done right, FlexFund can absolutely make you a lot more money. Now, as far as getting it enabled, it's super easy. So we've got a team here who will do everything for you, essentially. There's only two things that we need you to do. In your ISN settings, in your admin settings, we need you to go in there and put your checking account number and routing number so we know where to send money when you do a FlexFund transaction, because remember, we pay you up front. We need to know where to send that money. And then there's an electronic W-9 and ISN that we need you to just fill out electronically, because we're sending you money. There's a W-9 and the IRS gets involved. Not a big deal. Fill out that W-9, and those two things is all you have to do. We'll set everything else up. We'll make sure it's added to your order form, to your order grid. We'll work with you to decide which inspection types you want to be eligible. And that's something that's super important that you understand, that in your FlexFund settings and ISN, all of your inspection types, all of your services will port into there, and you get to choose which ones you want to be eligible for FlexFund. And if you don't check that box, then when your customer buys that service from you or that inspection type from you, they're not going to see FlexFund as a payment option. Okay, so you have total control over that. So setup is super easy. We work with you on helping you decide which inspection types you want. We add it to the order grid. We add it to the order form. We turn on email events. There's 2 email events that go out. One of them to your customers when they choose FlexFund, and one of them to agents when your customer doesn't have the closing information. There's an email event that goes to the agent letting them know that Guardian's going to be reaching out to get closing information. We have a marketing kit that's customized for you personally. You'll send us your logo, your name, your phone number, your email, and then we will send you email templates, PowerPoint presentations, social media posts, everything that you would need, flyers, you name it, so that you can market this to your agents and use it to get more market share. So like I said, we help you with all of that. And then we have agents here who will reach out to you once a month, and they will go over all the data with you. So that data that I showed you on the previous page that shows how much more money you make on each inspection, how much your customers, or what the adoption percentage is, so how often do your customers choose it. So all of that data, we have somebody who will reach out to you monthly and go over that data with you, so you know exactly how much money this is making you and what percentage of your customers are choosing it. So you will have a customer service agent who is assigned to you that will help you through this whole process. So here's the marketing kit that I mentioned. Like I said, we give you everything that you need. And then I think, just to kind of finish off, I guess, is how well this has been working. This is no longer a new product. We've been doing it for a long time, and it's absolutely made a difference on home inspection companies' business. Especially when things were really, really slow there. We had so many inspectors who told us this was the difference between me keeping my doors open, because I was doing so much fewer inspections, but the ones that I was doing made me so much more money that I was able to stay afloat. So it's pretty awesome. Now, I guess we're at 20 minutes. I want you guys to ask questions. So I went through everything pretty quick. I know that was a lot of information, but okay. So Ron, you said I want to get started right away. That's everybody. I'd love you to ask that question. That's great. We can help you with that, Ron. So we'll get you the information, and it takes a few minutes to set up. We'll assign you a rep who will walk you through the process and get you your marketing kit. Literally, by the end of the day, you could be offering this. So super easy.
Yep.
What other questions do you have, or concerns, or like? anything, like hit me with it.
Yeah, Aaron, while we wait, first of all, thank you. That was fantastic. While we wait for our folks in the audience to input some questions, I've got some that we hear quite frequently and that you probably have
Great.
answers to. So let me throw a couple at you while we wait. What happens if the client's home purchase falls through after they've selected FlexFund?
Yeah, good question. So as I mentioned, everything that happens, so when the customer goes to check out an ISN, they're going to see the payment options, right? They can choose credit card or FlexFund, or if you have ACH turned on, you can do ACH as well. If they choose FlexFund, the first thing that it's going to ask is for their closing information, right? And they can enter in their closing information, or they can check a box that says, I don't have it. Reach out to my agent to get it. Then they're going to put in their credit card number and expiration date as a backup form of payment, and we let them know we're not going to bill your credit card unless it doesn't get funded at closing. And then they sign it electronically. It's super quick. It really doesn't take them any more time to check out with FlexFund than it does with credit card. So as soon as that's done and it's signed, it's a paid inspection in ISN. It turns green. The report gets unlocked just like it would if they paid with credit card. You get funded up front, and then everything after that doesn't matter. Like if the deal falls through, you don't care. So you've already been paid. The money's in your bank account, and that's on us to collect. Part of that $50 fee that we're charging you is to cover the fact that we have to eat some inspections that we just can't collect on. So that's now our risk, not yours. What kind of fees do we charge the customer? So we don't charge the customer anything. We charge you $50. You get to determine how, I guess it's probably good that I go over this. There's consumer finance laws that say you are not allowed to charge your customer a fee to defer payment unless you're licensed as a lender. So you can't tell your customer, hey, you can pay later, but I'm going to charge you $50 to pay for your home inspection at closing. That's violating federal consumer finance law. So you can't do that. So you can raise your price. We know that only 1 out of 20 are going to do it. So if you raise your price by $2, $2.50 per inspection, you've covered your cost. So you can raise your price by a couple bucks just to offset. You can offer it on package deals where that if they buy a package deal, you've built it in that $50 into the price of your package. So there's ways to do it, but we don't charge your customer anything. Yeah, so Brian, you've got a question about realtors. You're saying there's realtors that are skeptical. For sure, there's some agents that want nothing to do with it. And the cool thing is now in ISN, you can go in there to your agent profile and you can turn FlexFund off for specific agents. So if you got an agent who wants nothing to do with it, just turn it off. Then that agent's customers will never see it as an option, and you don't have to worry about losing that agent. So you have total control over who sees this and who doesn't. But there will be agents who aren't interested in it, but I promise you there are agents in there who will use you solely because you offer it and your competitors don't. Let's see, something about the online scheduler. So yeah, the packages or whatever, you can totally set this up so that you can create packages in ISN, and your ISN, you can reach out to ISN support or our support. We can help you create packages. But if you go into the package tool and you say, I want a package deal of, home inspection, radon, sewer, and mold, and I want that to be $950, right? You can add as a service in that package, FlexFund. So now you can tell your customers, hey, if you buy my silver or gold package, the ability to pay at close comes with it for free. And it's a great way to get your customers to buy your package deals. So do the home inspections just tally up for a second or third property? So if the deal falls through, you were funded up front. We're going to charge the customer their backup payment, right, when they went to check out. So the question is, what if they do, the deal falls through and then they're doing another home with you and you do that inspection? So we treat each inspection as its own instance, right, its own order. So the first one fell through. We're going to charge the customer their credit card that they gave us as the backup form of payment. Then they do a second one with you. You created a new order. They chose FlexFund as their payment option, and we're going to treat that one as its own order. We don't just keep rolling those inspection fees over so that there's 3 home inspection fees and 1 closing. Unfortunately, we can't do that. But the last one that they do will go to closing. Ryan, were there other questions in there that I might have missed some that we're going through, or other ones that we had beforehand.
Yeah, I think a good one that would be great to have an answer to would be what happens if their order changes after they select FlexFund? Like if
Oh
they
yeah,
add sewer or
yeah,
radon
it's a great
or
question.
remove a
Yep.
sewer.
So the tool is built so that, let's say you know that you send out the initial click here to pay for your home inspection, customer signs up for FlexFund, and then show up on site to do the inspection, and they're like, well, you know what, I actually do want to do sewer scope. So what do now? They've done FlexFund, right? No problem. All you do is do what you would have done anyway. You go into the order, you add sewer scope. That's it. That's all you have to do. We get notified when there's a change to the order, so we'll update the invoice to the title company, and we'll fund you the updated amount. It's real easy to do before the inspection or the day of the inspection, but even after the inspection's done, let's say the inspection's done and the money's already in your bank account, and then they say, I want to do a sewer scope, a week later, no problem. Just go in, update the order, add sewer scope, go do the inspection, and then we will fund you the additional amount for the sewer scope, and we'll update the invoice and send the invoice to the title company with the updated amount. So ISN notifies us anytime there's a change to the order, and we update the invoice appropriately and rebill the title company. So we deal with it, and you get your money.
Fantastic.
What was that?
I was just going to look for another question.
Yeah, one that comes up a lot is just, how much control do I have over, what if I don't want to offer this on everything? And we wouldn't recommend that you offer it on everything. When you go into your inspection settings, your FlexFund settings, if you do standalone mold testing, right, you don't want to have FlexFund be available for that inspection type. So just don't check it. As long as the customer chooses an eligible inspection type, which you've determined beforehand, then they can add whatever services they want after the fact. And even though that individual service isn't FlexFund eligible, because it's tied to a FlexFund eligible inspection type, it will all get bundled together and will happen as one transaction. A couple things just to note, though, we do have a $2,000 limit right now. That's just an engineering issue. We're building it so that you'll be able to go sky's the limit, and then the fee will adjust appropriately based on how big the inspection is. But we have kind of a $2,000 limit right now for this. And then you have 60 days to close. So if it's not closed within 60 days and we don't get an updated closing date, then we'll bill the credit card.
Aaron, I think we have time for one more. Maybe you want to take a quick look at Brian's comment there about realtors objecting.
Because we need to create a marketing plans for realtors, as they're often the driver. The realtor will often try and talk the customer and spend it out of spending too much or picking pay at close because it'll increase your mortgage payment or whatever. So one thing to note is this does not increase your mortgage payment. This is just going on to the closing statement. It does not get wrapped into the loan. So it just goes to the closing. So they'll pay the inspection fee along with their appraisal fee and their prepaid taxes and everything else that they come to the table with at closing. Some agents will talk them out of it, but also keep in mind that most likely a couple days or a week or two before they got the home inspection and they're booking with you, their mortgage broker probably told them, don't put any big dollar amounts on a credit card because that it could affect your debt to income ratio, and which would affect your credit score, which could affect your loan, right? So they've just been told not to spend a lot of money, and now you're going here saying, hey, with sewer scope and radon and mold and air quality, you're over $1,000 for this. They're going, nope, I'm not doing that. Stick with the $400 inspection, right? And so now when you say they can pay at close, it's a lot easier for them to do that. So really, and then I guess one other thing, just on the note for agents, when agents really like this is when they were able to get seller concessions, where the seller says, I'll pay for closing costs, right? Now the buyer absolutely wants to use you because they know that you'll let them pay at close, which means the seller pays for their home inspection fee. So they're going to add everything they can into the cart when they're shopping with you, because they don't have to pay for it. So agents love you when they have seller concessions to pay closing costs.
Fantastic. All right, everyone, we are at time. I want to thank Aaron Fuhriman very much for this great presentation. And of course, thank you all for being here and for the thoughtful chats and comments and questions. I think this was really engaging and fantastic opportunity to hear from you and answer your questions. So again, thank you everyone for being here. Thank you, Aaron. And we'll see you out there in the field.
Yep. Thanks, everybody. Have a good one.